In the ongoing Gachagua cases before the High Court, one of the lawyers who is causing drama is one Dr. John Khaminwa. I wanted to take this opportunity to tell the young Kenyans about the history of this great Kenyan. Many people have said that being in his 80s, he should retire from practicing. I'm one of the people who totally agree with that. I don't see anything that is gaining, be it financially, be it fame, be it anything. I don't think there is anything that is gaining. He should. We can't choose a place for him to retire. He could decide to retire and stay within the capital. He could retire and stay in his royal home, or even he has a home in the coast. I remember his late wife Joyce was a judge in Mombasa. They have a very good weekend beach home there. I remember talking to him during the Goldenberg issue. Was it Goldenberg? Yeah, where he was a leading counsel, and there was a time I wanted to meet with him over the weekend because I used to give covert information to the Goldenberg, but he told me later that weekends he cannot be found. Every Friday after they close he would take a plane to Mombasa, where his late wife then was a judge, and he would spend the weekend on the coast. So he can decide whether to stay in the capital. He can decide to go and have a nice time at his beach house, or he could even retire to Western Province, to his royal home. Anywhere, wherever he wants to stay, let him go there. I just wanted to talk about him, especially to the young people. You have seen how this lawyer, tough lawyer called, is it Elisha Ogonya? Elisha Ogoya, Ongoya, the way he's shining. Everybody's talking about how Elisha Ongoya is shining. In the mid 80s, the lawyer who was shining then was none other. Who was shining at that level was none other than John Khaminwa. John Khaminwa by then was a very tough lawyer. He was challenging Quach. He was challenging Quach. They were tough lawyers. You know, there are times when, especially in a courtroom, we call it courtroom drama, where concentration is not the content of whatever is happening, but the drama that people are producing. So what Elisha Ongoya is now doing is what Quach and Dr. John Khaminwa did in around 86, mid 80s, yeah. I think the best way to start is we have to start at that level. There was a lawyer in Kenya who was called S.M. Otieno. Sam Melea Otieno, but people knew him mostly as SM Otieno. SM Otieno was very much famous to an extent that him, together with another Asian lawyer who was called Georgiadis, yeah, there was a joke in Kenya that a killer, could I say a murderer, when a murderer hired either Georgiadis or SM Otieno, the murderer would be guaranteed of winning the case. That was the joke that was there then. And like every perfect person, a good example is Nelson Mandela. Like every good person, very perfect person, there is one topic that fails him. There is one topic that you can be so good everywhere, left, right, left, right, front, back, but when it comes here in the central, you fail. SM Otieno died without a will. He died without a will, without a written will. And then when he died, there was a lot of casing there. There was a lot of casing there. He had a Kikuyu wife. He had a Kikuyu widow. She wanted, they had bought land in Ngong at a place called Upper Matasia. There is a place called Matasia. And then there is Upper Matasia. For the viewers who stay in Ngong or who know Ngong very well, can tell us if there is a Lower Matasia. So they had land in Upper Matasia, and by then, burying somebody within that place, you had to seek permission from the local government. So Wambui Otieno said that he had wished to be buried in Upper Matasia on condition that the local government, that is the county council, does allow him to be buried there. But then the clan, SM Otieno's clan, was called Umirakager. Umirakager. The clan, through his brother, through SM Otieno's brother, wanted him to be buried in his royal home. In his royal home, somewhere in Luo land, I think it is in Siaya, a place called Nyalgunga. Nyalgunga. So the clan wanted SM Otieno to be buried in Nyalgunga. So those days in the mid-80s, people who wanted to stay in town were being told, nyinyi mnakaa hapa Matasia. And if somebody was going home, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that around that time, the word Oshago was temporarily replaced by the name Nyalgunga. So there came stories, and this is one of the first cases that I've had very funny things. Actually, if you have to reason, if you have to use, how do you call it? If you have to reason, if you have to use logic with what is said in court, you'll run mad. Because here was a whole clan saying that he has to be buried in Nyalgunga, where the graves of his ancestors are. And both sides, Wambui Otieno was saying that if SM Otieno is not buried in Upper Matasia, his spirit will haunt her the rest of the life. And the same way also the Umirakager clan was saying that if he's buried anywhere else, apart from Umirakager, Nyalgunga, Umirakager is the clan, apart from Nyalgunga, then the spirits, his spirit and the spirit of the ancestors will hound them forever. I've always heard these things since that time because that is the first time I heard and followed. But I'm not aware of any of those cases where a judgment has, because all the cases you hear both sides claiming that if the dead person is not buried where we want, his or her spirit will haunt us. I've never heard anybody haunting. Actually, after the cases are complete, then that is that. So, John Khaminwa hired, no, I mean, Wambui Otieno hired John Khaminwa, and Ubira Kager hired Kwach. Later on, Kwach became a judge, he became Justice Kwach. I remember even there's a time when Justice Kwach was given the duty of sanitizing the judiciary. And I think I'll not be wrong to say that later on, he himself was his contract was terminated in order to sanitize the judiciary. That is the most famous case that everybody you talk about Justice Kwach, everybody you talk about John Khaminwa, a lot of people, that is when he started being noticed. But he was there earlier. He was there earlier. I'll start with the time he graduated. You'll not believe it, but you better believe my neck-top computer. You have heard of Wambui Otieno? Yes, she later came to be known as Wambui Otieno Mbugwa. She got married to a person, I think, old enough to be her grandson. And when she later died, you see, the boy was supposed to get a chunk of her inheritance, but her kids chased her away. And one of her daughters, I'm forgetting the name, but uses the name Otieno. She's very much in the human right activity, although in the recent past we have not had her a lot, the daughter to SM Otieno and Wambui Otieno. Wambui Otieno, she's from the Waiyaki family. Waiyaki family, the famous Kiambu Paramount Chief Waiyaki. She was from that family. Now, Dr. John Khaminwa graduated from the university law school in 1970. He graduated in 1970, so he started practicing in 1971. So when you hear him telling some people that I started practicing while ulikuwa unanyonya, he is not wrong. It is true that he started practicing 1971. How many lawyers alive today can tell you that they started practicing 1971? When he started practicing, he straight away went into prosecution department. When he went to prosecution department, he went and did his prosecution work in Kampala, Uganda. You have heard that from me, in Kampala, Uganda. He stayed there. He didn't stay for long because you can remember it is the same 1971, or is it 1972, when Idi Amin overthrew the government of Milton Obote. Soon later, the rule of law was not good for a lot of people, and he was one of the people who ran away to Kenya. When he ran away to Kenya, he shortly worked in the prosecution department, but later on started his law firm. And the law firm is called Khaminwa and Khaminwa. It's called Khaminwa and Khaminwa because it was jointly owned between him and his wife, Joyce Khaminwa. But later on, as years went on, Joyce became a judge, and as I've said, She was a judge in Mombasa, and by then their children had already grown up to be adults, and some of them were even lawyers. So when their mother became a judge, which means that she had to suspend her practicing, they joined that law firm. If I can't really recall all their four names, but I remember Khaminwa has four. Khaminwa has four kids. All of them, the name starts with A, A, Alpha, Alpha, Alpha. I would, okay, let me just say this like for the purpose of recording, but I've forgotten the names of the children. It's like one being called Albert, another one called what? Any name starting with an A. All the four had names, have names starting with A, A. In 1982, Khaminwa was detained. Khaminwa was detained by the Moi government. You see, during Moi's time, uh, especially connected to the August coup, Moi's level of reasoning was that although the law even says that even today, if the devil woke up today and was taken to court in, say, Kenya, and he required legal assistance, then the law and the constitution says that he will be given a lawyer or he will look for a lawyer. But you see, to Moi, anybody whom was classified as anti-government, that person was if you went to defend them, Moi would take it to be that you're one of those people. Uh, Again, he was detained in 1990 um, during the issue of multi-party. He represented very prominent people. He represented Raila Omolo Odinga. He represented Ken Matiba, George Anyona, among others. My study of him, I do not think that he has any political ambition or he has ever had, but rarely do you find him. Even today, I've just said that he defended Raila, and was it Raila was one of these? I think it was Ken Matiba who was taken to Nairobi area, and him being Matiba's lawyer followed that case. And when he followed that case up to upper traffic Nairobi, near Kenyatta National Hospital, he was told to stay in a room so that his client can be brought, only to be served with detention order. For the young people who do not know what detention is, you see, for you to go to jail, you have to be convicted. You have to be convicted and sentenced to serve. But during those days, it only required either the president or the minister for internal affairs to write your name into the Kenya Gazette to say that you have been detained without trial. And you see, like any other trial, the trials usually talk of how long you have been or how long you'll be jailed. For example, it would say that you have been jailed for 6 months, but you can be released earlier than 6 months on good behavior, on medical ground, or such a thing. But when you are jailed, they say detention. When you are in detention, it is without trial, and they do not say the period that you will be. You are just there indefinitely. So when he went to Nairobi area, I think the Nairobi area boss was Mr. George Kinoti. Mr. George Kinoti. He went to see Mr. George Kinoti in inquiring. There is something that they call habeas corpus. Habeas corpus is where you tell the police to produce the person, or to produce the person, and if the person is dead, to produce his body. So he was following the case of habeas corpus when he himself was detained. That is how he was detained. Uh, during the during the Umirakager case, there is one day he was late. There was one day he was late for hearing, and the judges were there. Kwach was there, and so on and so on. And when he was asked why he was late, he said, "My lord, I do not have a watch." That is when Kwach offered to buy him a watch. But the truth of the matter is he doesn't need a watch. What I'm trying to tell you is that he has never owned a wristwatch. Never. And I can add on the thing that at the time of recording this thing or this video, people tell me that you want to hear me say recording this tape. At the time of recording this tape, he has never owned a wristwatch and he has never owned a smartphone. Funny. Now I think I'll now talk about the meaning of his name. The meaning of his name, Khaminwa. I wanted to say that the name Khaminwa and JI-TENGE, the names, not the individuals. I wanted to say Khaminwa and JI-TENGE names are related. But then I know some people will say, Bwana, you are related to everybody. Yes, I'm related to everybody. After all, we all come from Adam and Eve. But on a more serious issue, Khaminwa and JI-TENGE are related. Names, not we people, but the names, Khaminwa and JI-TENGE. JI-TENGE is not a name. Khaminwa is not a name. It is just like the name Kenyatta. Kenyatta is not a name. Johnston Kamau called himself Kenyatta because he used to put on a belt that was called Kenyatta. Now Khaminwa, let me tell you about Khaminwa. We in the African society, we have something that we call the only born child. The only born child. Now the only born child is very different. I think it is 3 or 4 different circumstances that can make somebody be called the only born child. Now, in African society, we don't say that you are the only born child of your father. No. They used to have polygamy, so there's no way you can say that you're the only born child of your father. But they used to say that you are the only born child of your mother. Because if you are those days, if your mother had only you, he would marry another woman to get kids. So you would be born by your mother, you alone, but you'll have step siblings. You get me? So that is why in African society we never say that you are the only child of your parents, but it was the only child of your mother. Now, when it comes to Khaminwa, the person who was born alone, there are occasions when one was born without siblings in a way that it can never be explained. Because nowadays, we have family planning methods where you only want one kid, and then either you take pills the rest of your life or you go for, is it vasectomy? And the male, I don't know what they call it in the male tribe, but you can do all the things scientifically, or you can even do it Catholic way. But in the world today, you can decide to have one child and be contented. In fact, we have even other people like the next president of the USA. I'm told that she has no kid, and most likely she has no kid out of choice. So nowadays there are so many reasons why you find a woman without a kid or with just one kid. That thing is there nowadays. But previously, there's something that was never explained, that a woman only had one kid, and as far as she could do all the things, including prayers, including seeing witch doctors, including whatever was doable, she only had one child. That one child, if that one child was a boy or male, that child would be called Tenge. Tenge. If your mother never gave birth to any other person and you were male, you'd be called Tenge. And the name Tenge uh, would just be a name that would come later, not at the time you are born. Like my grandfather was called Musavini. Musavini. Uh, yeah, M70, just like a president for my neighboring country. So the person that my grandfather was named after was Huateng. What I was trying to say here is that after you are born, if you are male and you stay for so many years, you don't get siblings, people start calling you Tenge, 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 Tenge. And if you are Tenge and then later on you have kids, your sons will be called Huatenge, Huatenge. So Hua is son of, or Arab, or Ole. So Tenge is a person who was born alone. He never shared a womb with any other individual. That is Tenge. And it is usually, it's a name that came up later. Because at the time you were born, maybe your mom believed that she would get other kids and you'd be named whatever you'd be named. So Tenge is a name of somebody who was born alone. Then we have somebody who was born with siblings, and because of various reasons, by the time that person becomes an adult, between the time he's born, they can be born several, 6, 7, or 8. But by the time this person becomes an adult, all the siblings died through various things. One would die because of in-child mortality. One would die because of sickness, malnutrition, everything. So that by the time you become an adult, you are alone. You are very different from Tenge, because Tenge never shared the womb, but you shared the womb with others who died and you remained alone. That one would be called Muterwa. Muterwa. So Muterwa and Tenge are different. Those are two. But then we have other people who are considered to have been born alone, but they were not born alone. I've talked of Tenge who never had siblings. I've talked of Muterwa who had siblings, but they died during the infancy. One died when they were he or she was 2 years, another 4 years, another 6 years. By the time you become an adult and maybe you want to marry or something, you find that you are the only one. But then those are the two. Then there is another unique single born child. The one is a boy. You are born. Let me take a figure 7. You are born 7 and you are a boy. So you have 6 sisters. And the last one, because this is the third one, the first one is Tenge, the second one is Mutero, the third one is where you are the only son, and the fourth and last one is you are the only daughter. Now, in an instant where you are the only daughter, you are born alone, and all your siblings are brothers, and you are the only lady. This one is usually called what we call tomboy. She usually grows up with the male characteristics, because when she was growing up, she used to fight with her brothers. And when it came to cooking or anything, she could not cook every day. They had the chances. Such a lady, you get married to her, expect to be given an opportunity also to cook. Nilipika jana, we upike leo. So that is the third team of a lady who was born with brothers. Very harsh and very rough, militant. In English, we call them Amazon. Female soldiers, female warriors. And the last one is where we have an only boy with sisters. This one, people used to call him Khaminwa. Khaminwa. Khaminwa means a boy who was born. This senior counsel Khaminwa, the name Khaminwa is his father's name. So the father may have been born with sisters alone, or even the person, just like my grandfather, Musavini. Musavini, he had brothers and whatever. But I think the Musavini that my grandfather was named after was JI-TENGE. So you'll find that senior counsel's father was called Khaminwa. So we don't know whether the father was a Khaminwa or he was named after a Khaminwa. Now, why is he called Khaminwa? One thing is that you find a boy or a man who was born among sisters. The first thing is he has ladylike characteristics. During our times, ladies used to walikuwa wanatengeneza vitambaa na korosia, knitting, yeah. You'd find he likes knitting. You'll find that he's very smart, like Madilu system. Madilu, for those of you who like Lingala music, Bialu Madilu was born among sisters, and that is why he used to dress so well, and he used to use a lot of perfume. So these people, these men who are born with sisters, have have this thing that is called women characteristics. And then since he's the only one, usually the sisters usually dress him down. Akitaka kuongea nyamaza. So that is why anafinyiliwa. That is why the name Khaminwa comes from. Khaminwa means amefinyiliwa. So it says that whoever it was, whether it is a senior counsel's father or even an ancestor whom senior counsel's father was named after, somebody there was a Khaminwa. He was born with sisters alone. Viewers, that is the much I had today to tell you about senior counsel John Khaminwa.